We are back here again in our election studio, coming to you live from Lagos State at Plus TV Africa. This is Nigeria Decides. And the INEC chairman just told us that we're supposed to wait until 8:30 when the collation center also resumes with the presentation of all of the results so far. But we've looked at Plateau State, Kano State, Katsina and Taraba State. Those were the recent ones we just had before that short break. And then still in the studio, we have Fejiro, a social commentator and satirist. Thank you very much for waiting behind while we do the whole assessment.
Absolutely. So nice to join you, David. And yes, we are set to take it up from there. So many results still coming in. And we're making progress. Actually, the INEC chairman promised that all other results will be announced tonight.
Tonight?
Yes, he did say that, and we're holding him by that promise. That definitely we'll get to know the final results possibly tonight. Is that a possibility? I think Nejeeb would like to comment on that.
It's a hope that we can get all the results tonight, probably a little into the early morning hours of tomorrow. But it will be good for us to have it tonight. It's stretched too long already. So I'm hopeful, but then I don't know if it can be possible.
Fejiro, we're at about 28 states covered now. Do you even think that the manner of presentation of these collation results is proper? Because having to go through at least 73 orally, isn't that too much of a stress and slowing the whole process?
Well, it's the reality we find ourselves with. So the onus lies with INEC to find a better way to hasten presentation, because the arguments will come up that every political party would want equal representation. People should hear how they fared in these various places. But you also have political parties that claim to withdraw from the race and support other candidates, still getting votes.
Still having votes.
Still getting votes and being announced in the collation centers. And like we mentioned before we came on air, there are parties who have less votes than void votes. Like void votes actually have more votes than a number of political parties. So I think in the future we should look at ways of streamlining party participation in elections to parties that can actually represent the people one and pull votes at the same time.
That all boils down to INEC's activities, because at the end of the day, people have said, well, INEC needs to take a tougher stance when it comes to registration of political parties. We have 91 of them. Nejeeb, do you think we should now INEC has to do something drastic, reduce possibly to 5, because we all say, these parties come up saying that they have stronger ideologies away from the main opposition, and later on they now form coalitions and support these same parties they point fingers at. So do you think to shorten this whole process of presentation, if there's still similarity of ideologies, then we should just trash it down to 5 or 10? What's your prescription?
The maximum that makes sense is 5 parties. But we have to look at how this thing comes into play. It's not INEC that just sits around and says, oh, we've decided to make this rule. It all goes down to our legislature again. And we see these people that are in the National Assembly, they have their own reasons why they decide maybe to support having as many parties as possible, because they think maybe one day they would want to pursue something outside. It does not help in any way. We saw this in 2015, and by 2015, people were already complaining that there were so many parties, only for us to have more right now. So if we are going to decide to do something about it, it has to go to the National Assembly. That's where the decision is made. Someone has to put in that effort to say, National Assembly, let's change this thing.
Now, how do we even start making it known that we're not down with this rising number of political parties? Because believe it or not, in the next 4 years, we might even have more parties if nothing is done to stem the tide. How do we begin the conversation to say that we have too many parties than we can handle? Fejiro, weighing on this.
Well, it's, as you said, it's down to legislature, and then we know how legislature ideally should pass. It should start from probably the grassroots level, and there should be committee hearings as regards this. So in our several constituencies, it makes sense if we start telling our representatives to bring these issues up, because that's their job. That's why they were elected, to bring issues that concern us up in the National Assembly. So I feel we should put pressure on our representatives, write petitions to them as several constituencies, saying that we have far too many political parties, especially in the presidential election. We can have them in local elections, because I feel that will represent the many views of different people, and it's a smaller constituency, so you can secure more votes.
So you feel the bar should be higher for presidential
elections, yes.
Now we're beginning to see the big figures, because now we see that some states have as much as 1 million, 1.5 million votes. Are you impressed? Are we moving forward, or is this something you've been waiting for? Was it anticipated, given that everyone had been complaining that there's low turnout of voters during this election?
Well, if you trace it historically, the North has always voted who they feel represents them more, represents their intentions and their ideas. So it was something we expected to happen, that based on past projections and how the campaigns went, the bloc votes will go in a certain direction. So the results are not, they're not surprising. It's just that as it's becoming more obvious that the election might swing in a particular direction.
Nejeeb, Fejiro said it's not surprising, but in areas where we have seen security being threatened, we still saw figures coming out, and some individuals have questioned it. How do you marry these two instances? You have insecurity, yet the numbers are going quite high.
Okay, I think you're talking about areas like Borno State.
Absolutely.
It's hard to explain that, but then probably because security has improved there over the years, I can't tell.
Has it improved?
Yeah, over the years, Borno State has improved from maybe 2013.
Remember the morning explosion,
of
even
course,
on the D-Day?
Of course, even then. But if we compare what was happening in Borno in 2013-14 to what's happening there right now, there was a time.
IDPs as well.
Of course, the IDPs, they registered IDPs. Remember that when you are in a position where people give you food every day, people take care of you every day, you assume that they are doing very well for you. So the IDPs were registered and they did cast votes in those areas. So I expected them to vote for who they felt, for those in government. So, and in terms of the huge figures from Kano, Kano is throwing out about 1.9 million votes, which was about,
votes, actually.
yeah, which was less than what they did in 2015, considering that there are even now more registered voters in Kano.
Exactly.
So it's not really, I wouldn't say it's that impressive if we compare it to 2015, but then Kano really brings in the huge numbers. I was surprised about Katsina. I didn't expect Katsina to bring in more than 1.3 million, I'll be about 1.3 million.
But between the two main political parties, that's already 1.5 at least.
Yes. So it's really, Katsina really surprised me, but not Kano State.
But these are strongholds of parties that we know. Do you see anything strange about how the numbers have swung so far?
I still find Katsina getting, one party getting, the APC getting 1.2 million. It is still strange to me, but then there are many reasons why they would have chosen to come out to vote, especially since the president is from Katsina. They may have benefited from the 5,000 naira that they give the poorest people. They would have benefited from maybe the trader money. They would have benefited from all those loans and other things. So it's possible that they came out en masse to support this so that it continues for them.
Okay, now let's talk about Lagos. Are you disappointed with the figures we are seeing from Lagos?
Yes, yeah, very much so.
We know that the APC got 580,825 votes, and the PDP got 448,015 votes in Lagos. Is that, react to that, please?
Yes, a huge number of people came out to register in Lagos. Lagos has the highest number of registered voters, and unlike Kano, they are not even able to pull 1 million, right? They are
between the two major parties.
You understand? They are struggling to pull a million. So I think Lagos, I would have preferred, I would have thought maybe would have at least, in fact, on Saturday here I was saying that hopefully we'll see 3 million.
Exactly, that was a projection.
Voters.
But do you think the
Very,
shake-ups that we had in Okota, Oshodi and the likes would have contributed?
Those are
even
pockets, can it?
Yeah, even though those pockets of violence or disruptions would have affected votes, but let's also remember they came later on in the day when most people would have voted.
But the votes were not counted in some of those places. So
Yes,
we saw that ballot boxes
exactly.
were
But then, how many? Let's look at how many votes we are talking about. We are not talking about like 800,000 votes.
Exactly.
We are talking about tens of thousands of votes. So
it wouldn't have been a major difference.
Yeah, there was low turnout, and there are people who are. I think there are people contesting these figures also for Lagos. But let's see how everything ends. But then, if these are the true figures in Lagos, then it's quite poor.
Now, with all that we've seen, in some of these places, we find that the cancellation toll is actually high. Rejected votes, places where elections didn't even hold, like in Rivers State. All of these issues, with them still on the table, and the fact that INEC may still have to look at the reports and take into cognizance that so happened in this place and all that, case by case. Are we looking forward to possibly an announcement with all of this? Can we expect to know the winner of this election if we still have all of these issues with almost all the results we've seen? They've been one issue or the other.
You see, it depends on the significance of those cancelled votes and voided votes or postponed elections. It depends on the number of votes we are looking at. If, say, the difference between the top two parties is about, I'm looking at about 3.5 million right now or so, and the number of postponed or rejected votes is like 200,000 or so.
It's insignificant.
It's insignificant. So I think with that, it's enough for INEC to say, okay, this is the winner. But when, of which I don't see the rejected or postponed votes being as much as 1 million or 2 million. I don't see it getting that high.
All over the country.
Yes.
Don't forget that we have places in Rivers State. In fact, almost across the country, there were places where entire polling units were
it can be up to
cancelled.
2 million. From my own calculation, it can be up to 2 million.
Do you share the same
far
view,
less.
Fejiro?
I believe so as well, because if you look at it in terms of geopolitical zones, the majority of the cases of violence were recorded in the southwest and the south-south. You hardly found any in the southeast and the north. So when you look at it this way, what number do these polling units have in the greater scheme of things as compared to polling units that brought in results in other geopolitical zones?
Well.
So you don't, even from, if you compare to 2015 results and compare the number of registered voters, it might be inconsequential, probably a drop in the option.
Doing that comparison of registered voters and those who actually voted, that's the number of votes cast and those that are relevant apart from those that are invalid. We still see we are lingering around that threshold of 30, 40, max 50% turnout. How do you think we would be able to address this issue ahead of the governorship election, subsequent elections within this year and the coming years, and 2023?
This
trend has been since 2011, 1999, and a whole lot more.
So there are a lot of stakeholders involved in elections, not just INEC, the person conducting the elections. There are the voters, the political parties, the security agencies. A lot of people don't come out to vote because they don't feel safe. So if they can assure us that we'll be safe, which in some areas they fail to, so that might even affect voter turnout on the 9th of March. So if they can assure that voters will be safe, their votes will actually count, and that is what will come. That will be the result we will see. Then you might have more people voting.
March 9 is just coming in a few days' time. Do you think we would still see ourselves weighing in just 30, 40, 50% out of the capability that we can truly have a turnout of 5.5 million using Lagos as a case study?
I believe with the results people are seeing now, they may be forced, more people may be forced to come out, because seeing results like in Osun, where the winner got just about 10,000 votes, people will realize that just maybe 30,000 of us would have made a bigger difference. You know, so I think there are places, even in Lagos, there are places where people would decide, you know what, let's go out. But then in those parts of Lagos where there was violence, people may be scared to come out also. So we may see huge numbers coming out from these northern states that we've identified: Kano, Katsina, Kaduna, and, you know, even Taraba.
Some call it the triple K.
Exactly. So we may see more numbers coming out in those places that we are secure. Security is a very huge issue. From 1999, number of people coming out to vote rose in 2003 because there wasn't so much of violence. We're talking about rigging, we're talking about people not believing that their votes would count back then. But around 2007, there were rumors of violence, and there was even violence in Lagos and other parts. Then it just devolved from there down.
Nejeeb, what sort of assurance do Nigerians need now? Is it verbal? Because we know just before the election, the president made a statement, and some people felt it was a threat. The others felt it showed that the government was committed to ensuring a free, fair, credible election. But even then, we've seen violence and some things that, you know, Nigerians are not proud of.
Okay.
So,
if a lot of this violence committed around the country, if people are being caught, not just random people, people that were seen on videos committing these crimes, if they are caught and they are being punished between now and the 9th, then others will be wary of committing these crimes. And other people, voters will believe that, yes, these things are being tackled. But when you come out and just give verbal assurances, which were given before the 23rd,
Exactly.
then I don't think it will matter.
We'll have to quickly run off and then bring us some news updates. Thank you very much for still staying with us, Fejiro,
so
Omu, and Nejeeb Bello.
Thanks
We'll
a
still
lot.
come back
Always
and
a
then
delight
have
to
these
have you.
conversations. So just hold your thoughts.
All right.
And then it's time to bring you some news updates, if anyone.
all right, this is still Nigeria Decides, and of course, we're not going anywhere. We'll just go for a news update, and then we'll bounce back to the live studios to continue the analysis of results already announced at the INEC Collation Center.
Countdown to
Abuja.
8:30.
Absolutely, at 8:30 we'll still have to hook up to Abuja for more updates. I am Aronu.
And I'm David Alabi.
Stay with us.